Breezy Point City Council, Monday, August 1st, 2022 at 7 p.m. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible.
visible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to item number 3 in the agenda, consent agenda. 3A, July 5th, 2022 City Council meetings, minutes. 3B, approval of claims totaling $74,693.55, comprised of electronic checks 3060E through 3063E, and physical checks 137737 to 137796. 3C, approval of thermal imagers purchase. And 3D, appointment of Teddy Zerden to the Planning Commission. Is there anything that anybody would like to have pulled from the consent agenda at this time? Hearing nothing, I will take a motion to approve consent agenda as read.
So moved.
second,
Motion from Councilmember Bakken, second from Councilmember Lillehei. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4 in the agenda, open forum. Is there anybody here at this time who wishes to address the Breezy City Council in open forum? Yes. Please come forward, state your name, your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to the council.
I got 5 the last time I did this, so I'm going to speak for 5, sir. My name's Bill Toft. I lived at 31877 Green Scene Drive, Breezy Point. And first of all, thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for all your willingness to sit up in those chairs and watch out for us, the taxpayer, most of the time. I've been denied 2 times to be put on the agenda to further discuss this golf course expansion. Now, I've been waiting 5 months for information that I was supposed to receive that backs some statements that were made by various people. I'm not going to get into any names, but all that tells me is that there was no research done before this decision was made. There was no due diligence done before this decision was made. It was just thought it was a good idea and that you guys moved forward with it. I guess you don't want to be put on the agenda because then you'd have to actually answer my objections to this and have a discussion about it. Even the newspaper doesn't put anything in about it. In the last 5 months, we've been told that this is going to bring in thousands of dollars. The clear water example of what the disc golf course is there will happen here. We're not going to hear noise. You know, we hear occasional conversation, or we might hear occasional loud noise, but you won't even know it's there. There's no alcohol being drank down there or pot being smoked. It's a city park. It just can't happen. And I could go on, but I'll list one more. Get involved. You need to get involved and attend the meetings so you can have an impact on the decisions that you find people make. I think I just proved that that's not the case by you guys denying me to be on the agenda. The noise issue, the person who said that, their deck is 74 yards, 3/4 of a football field from the closest point to the old disc golf course. My deck is 38 yards from the new one, and some of my neighbors are even closer than that. I have some pictures here from the last 5 months. Alcohol being empties in the disc golf course area. I can hold them all up at once. Every single garbage can has got alcohol empties in there. I've walked by there many times and smelled marijuana smoking. Now, I don't think this is the police's issue, but don't tell us that there's not alcohol being consumed on there or pot being smoked, because there is. The clear water example that was used, that's a private golf course, privately owned. No tax dollars went into the maintenance and the operation of that golf course. And on a side note, we were told that the hotels are busy and the whole community's filled whenever they host an event up there. There's one hotel, and I called. It's busy every weekend, no matter what is going on up in that city. The thousands of dollars. I've talked to servers in every restaurant in the area. Not a one said they've ever waited on a disc golf course player. They've said they've waited on a lot of real golfers, but not disc golfers. The $850 that you're going to get for a sponsorship, I've talked to several business owners, and there isn't one that said that they would pay $850. And to quote one of them, he said, "There's no economic benefit to us. These people don't live in the area. They're not taxpayers." The demographics of these folks that play disc golf are, they make under $49,000, they have less than $400 in savings. They don't spend money. There is no public good, but you're putting us in public harm right now.
Sir, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. I spoke to the former head of the Bureau of Criminal Investigation for Northern Minnesota, and he said that crime springboards from city parks and parking lots. That's the #1 issue for Northern Minnesota, and he did it for 30 years. I described the secluded nature of this particular parking lot and the secluded nature of the golf course, and he was shocked that you guys went forward with this decision. You're putting us in harm's way. He said the quality of life goes down in every case that he saw. Your own survey that you paid $14,000 for back in 2020 suggested that the number one reason us folks live here is because of the quiet neighborhoods and the trees, and you've discarded totally what was in that survey. People vote that pay taxes, like me myself. These disc golfers don't even live in the area, they don't vote. Thank you all.
Thank you for your comments to the council tonight.
Ask me.
No, not at this time.
Later.
That isn't the time or place for
I
it.
have a spot in the agenda to discuss that.
Yeah, I know. Yep. All right. Anybody else who wishes to address the council in open forum at this time? Hearing none, open forum is now closed. Moving on to item number 5 in the agenda, mayor and city council reports and committee reports. 5A, mayor. Before I get into a report on the Joint Powers Board, I do want to bring some information to the council. I recently received a notice from the League of Minnesota Cities dated July 21st, 2022, informing me that our Senator Kerry Rude, and our Representative Josh Heinzman were both selected as League of Minnesota Cities Legislators of Distinction for 2022. So I wanted to pass that along to the council, let them know that both of these legislators who work for us in this area had been not selected by them. So I think that's a pretty neat thing. So moving on, the Joint Powers Board did meet July. We had a good meeting. The main focus of that meeting was the budget. The chief provided a preliminary budget to us for the next fiscal year. We reviewed the budget, asked for some small changes and a few clarifications on the budget. It will be coming back to us a week basically from today. We'll be meeting again, and they will have that budget at that time for us to look at as a joint powers to approve and then bring back to our councils to make a recommendation to support that budget pending discussion by the council or any questions they may have on it. In addition, we also had a discussion about hiring of firefighters. Currently, the fire district is down. I want to say 9 or 10 firefighters. We can hold 30, and I think we're at 21. They just recently had interviews and interviewed 4, I believe. Do you want to speak to how that went, Rebecca? Because I know that you served on that.
Yeah, there was 4 very good candidates, and I think the 3 of us, Bob from Pequot, Tom, the chief, the fire chief, and myself, both thought they all would do very well. And so that will go before the Joint Powers Board for approval to hire those 4.
Perfect. Excellent. So it sounds like we'll have 4 more pending approval by the joint powers joining the fire department, or the fire district. That brings us up then to, I believe, 25. I know they are still having advertisements for hiring. If you know of anybody that you're aware of that would be interested in serving on the Pequot Lakes Fire District and serving as a firefighter, please encourage them to apply. They can apply through Chief Nelson, and they can find the information on Pequot Lakes website. There's information on there as well. So the other piece that we talked about was the sale of some older equipment. It's one of the older fire tankers. It's actually one of the ones that used to reside here in Breezy. With the new tanker that was just purchased and brought in, this one is now ready to be sold. And so they'll be looking at ways to get rid of that property, and the money from that will be put into the capital improvement plan to help support new equipment that's going to be needed in the future years coming. So one other thing that was tabled until this next meeting was bylaws. That was on the agenda. We needed to have some clarifications on some different things regarding that. That'll be brought back to us again in August, and we'll be discussing that further as well. But overall, I think it's going very well. The board is working and functioning well. We continue to work on the little details that are so important to that. I know our city administrators, both ours and Pequot's, is working on some different things regarding legal as well as insurance and a few other things, but we continue to move forward in that and making progress. So the Joint Powers Board is going very well at this point, and I'm very happy with what we're seeing it being accomplished. And I don't know if you have any other further comments to add.
No, I don't. I just agree. I agree. Everything's going really well.
Yeah, good, excellent. All right. So moving on, we have 5B City Council members, 5BI Finance Committee, and that's basically myself and Councilmember Ball. We just met this past week with Administrator Chansky, and we went over some of the beginnings of working towards the budget. The main piece we covered at this time was the general fund account. We went through all that, talked about what was happening there. David continues to work on getting the other parts together, and he will be getting us together as well again in the future to review those. But we will be getting ready to be able to present something to the council this next meeting in September in regards to setting a preliminary. So we're making progress on this, moving ahead. It's looking good. I'm very happy with where we're at right now. There were some things that we discussed, but I think overall, I think the council is going to be pleased with what they see when we come back with a final preliminary for you guys to take a look at in September. So I don't know if you had any other comments.
No, that's a good update. Thanks, David, for all your work.
Yes, absolutely. David's been doing a ton of work and continues to do a lot of that to get it all ready and prep for us. That's a big, major piece for us. So, all right, moving on. 5B2, Personnel Committee. Councilmember Maroney.
Yeah, I'll take that on. Personnel Committee met this month, had a number of items, as you can see on our agenda. First was union negotiations. We did have our first meeting reviewing a number of items that the LELS police union were looking for or asking about. So we did respond to those requests, and we're waiting for LELS's response to that. Once we can come to an agreement between LELS and the Personnel Committee, then the agreement will be then coming to the council for full approval on that. So that's where we're at with contract negotiations with them. While we were we are still reviewing the market study, and we've gotten some feedback on that. But part of the negotiations too was is a cost of living COLA increase. And so what we did is we took a look at what that looks like in the contract negotiations, what it looks like for non-union personnel. And so we're forwarding that on to the Finance Committee for consideration, but we're also still pending on what that final contract looks like. While we don't have to mirror what the union does to what non-union members do, we have in the past always done the same. So that's been underway. The market study has been going through. Surveys have been sent out or finalized and being sent out. And just a reminder, just because we're doing the market study doesn't mean that we have to do anything. We can adopt at a slower pace. There's a lot of different things. It's just the study. It does not commit us to anything at this point. Discussion on 2023 life, short-term, and long-term disability insurances. Administrator Chansky did do some research on life insurance and has found that we actually can save money going with a different policy for life insurance. Majority of our employees will actually see an uptake in life insurance policies, and he's continuing to work with staff regarding those changes on that. We did also discuss short-term and long-term disability, and at this point, the Personnel Committee didn't feel to move forward with that. But it is a goal for 2023 to review all of city benefits for all employees, especially with the new Assistant City Administrator coming on board, which leads us into the next topic that we had. We did meet with 4 separate candidates in interviewing. All went very well. We did agree with one candidate, and we're waiting to hear back from them at this point for a potential offer. Depending on their response, we may ask for a special meeting to approve the offer from the full council. As you are well aware, we need a full council approval for that offer. If we did wait until the next council meeting, we'd be looking at September, which may delay and prohibit that candidate from coming on board. So look forward to a potential special meeting sometime next week, potentially. Any questions?
I don't have any. It was a very good report. A lot of work the Personnel Committee's been doing as of late and will continue to do. So I appreciate you guys' efforts in working on that. And I know there's been a lot of meetings and things going on. So thanks.
If I might,
Yeah, go ahead.
only on the life insurance, different policy. Are they a term? Are they a life policy? You know?
Mr. Chansky? I believe
Yeah,
it's-
I can answer that, Councilmember Bakken. So the policy, essentially how it works for employees, it's only valid while they're employed by the city, and it kind of goes essentially it's a 1-year term, and we just renew it every
So
single
it's a
year.
term? Is it a term?
It's like a 1-year term. So essentially, we renew it every single year, and that's where we can decide when or not. And then if an employee leaves employment with the city, then that goes away.
Poof.
Yeah, so it's essentially, as long as you're employed with the city, you have that coverage.
Okay. So you've got a bid on a life, or a term policy that's less money, is what I'm hearing, correct?
It's less premium to the city.
That's what I understand. End of story. Thank you very much. I could have some suggestions, but I'm going to zip it.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions for Councilmember Maroney? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Item 5B3, Planning Commission.
Planning
Councilmember Lillehei.
Commission met on July 12th, and on their agenda, which you have a copy of here, they had 2 variants, or 2 public hearings on, for a parcel on Northwoods Lane, and then another parcel on Piney Point. Both were approved. Then there was some discussion on person wants to have a business up on Bushman Road. It's kind of a unique situation. It's a home occupation, which led to a good bit of discussion, and that morphed into having a workshop specifically talking about home occupations, which we kind of, in the workshop, discussed various different options as to how to approach home occupations. And so we're going to be looking at various different possibilities on what to do with our ordinance on home occupations. We also discussed licensed daycare facilities and proposing that we do a minor change to our ordinance so that we're in agreement with the state, because we limit the number of daycares, or daycare students, or whatever you want to call them, daycare people, to 12, and the state has it at 14. So we want to adjust that to 14, and we'll be seeing that come through planning and zoning here very shortly. All in all, the workshop, I think, was very good. We had good discussion on what we should be doing with home occupations, and we're probably going to have staff come up with a couple different various options. And At this time, I'd like to just explain a little bit. I had made the commitment to do the financial analysis on the disc golf course. And when I made that commitment, I knew what I wanted to do. And then shortly after I made that commitment, my wife fell and injured herself. And as a result, we decided to sell our house on the lake and move into a townhouse. During that process, in selling the house, we were homeless for 3 months while the townhouse was being finished. And then after we got moved in, shortly after we got moved in, my wife fell again and broke her hip and passed away. And so I have been very remiss in working on this analysis, but I still plan to get it done. It's just going to take me some time to get it done. A lot of stuff going on in the last year that has precluded me from working on this, and I apologize for that, but I'm just sorry that I can't do any more on it, but I will eventually get it done. Anyway. Also, last Friday, I went to the tax forfeit land sale. There were 5 properties in Breezy Point that sold on the market, and for a total of $16,225, which was pretty good. We didn't have that many on the docket, which is a big improvement from what we had several years back. I did talk we kind of joked a little bit with Gary Griffin. We've made so much progress by being able to combine lots together and make larger parcels out of individual parcels to make them more saleable. And we've had a lot of improvement in that area. So we're down quite a bit on tax forfeit properties, and we continue to make progress. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Other than to speak to the fact that in regards to the disc golf course, yes, it's an ongoing process, and understand that there's a lot of work to be done, but we're going to get it accomplished, and we'll have that information, so.
Yep, thank you.
Good, you're welcome. All right, moving on, 5B, 4, Road Committee. Councilmember Maroney or Councilmember Lillahei?
Yeah, well, I can take that, and you can chime in wherever I mess up, Tom. Road Committee met on July 13th. The items here listed before you. The first item was the Shoreview Lane speed study results. As you may recall, we had a complaint about the speed on Shoreview Lane last year. Has been going on for some time here. And in the interim, we purchased a speed sign that can track and record data, speeds, counts, etc. That has been deployed as of May 3rd. That was deployed. At that point, we did place a cautionary 20 mile per hour speed limit sign on both the ingress and egress, if you would, the entrance and both entrances, if you would, at the end of the road. We monitored traffic counts, we monitored speed, and then that came off on June 7th. We took those signs off and continued to monitor the speeds. Within that time frame, what we saw was a reduction of speed happened when the speed signs were up, the cautionaries, of less than 1 mile per hour. Now, at the time that we went on forward with this, my plan was to do a kind of a 4-step process. There was 2 areas that we were concerned about monitoring the speed. The first was at the onset of Shoreview, and then the other side was just east of the apartments. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, so sorry. On the east of the apartments. The game plan was we were going to monitor with the cautionary sign for a month, without the cautionary sign the month for the beginning of the road, move the tracker down over by the apartments without the cautionary signs, and so now we're approaching that month where we were going to do data collection for with the cautionary 20-mile-per-hour signs. That was the game plan that we set forward going forward, so that was still the game plan as of today. Tom and I both met at the road committee discussing this. And again, unfortunately, what we're seeing is we are seeing a reduction, but it is less than 1 mile per hour at this point. So maybe results will vary on this last month if we continue moving forward with that plan. So more analysis could come in September about this.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to add is the speed monitor is somewhat, I don't want to say subjective, but it's rather technical from the standpoint of there's a lot of variables in it that we have to factor in and factor out. How basically the window that it looks at oncoming traffic will basically mean how far away the vehicle is before it gets recorded. And it's collecting data all the time. So some of the data is misleading. You have to truncate it and then just take a portion of that data because that's the data that's meaningful. We need to delve into the technical aspects of the monitor itself and get a process and get a standard as to how we're going to interpret it. It's data and it's somewhat statistical data, and we all know that you can do anything you want with statistics. So we need to have a procedure that says, this is the data that we're going to take, and it's going to be between these time points, which relates to how far away, because you can get a butterfly flying in front of the thing, and it'll show up as somebody, flying 60 miles an hour, So, I mean, you have to be able to filter those in and filter those out. So it's a really valuable tool. We just have to be able to work with it and understand it properly. So.
Next item on the agenda was the speed study policy. We discussed a number of things around that. Staff is going to currently working on a speed study policy to bring back to us at a later time. We'll see about next month or the following month. Let's see, discussion on Bushman Road. We met and discussed regarding Bushman Road. Staff was going to reach out to our consultants that we had just to get a refresh. Again, Mr. Chansky is new to us. Our old administrator was part of that whole process. So Mr. Chansky was going to get caught back up to speed with Public Works Supervisor Joe Zierden. But at this point, with no other communities really pulling the trigger, the road committee felt that we should start progressing towards a design stage for a up to local road improvement. At the time that we were looking at this, we were looking at county standards, going and potentially turning that road over. That might work if we had all 4 players involved with it. Since that's not just happening, we're looking at more of a local road improvement at this point and maintaining that road ourselves. Anything to add on that?
No, that's exactly correct. Yep.
Then last, we did also talk about sewer expansion. Now, that's not directly related to roads, but it could be. Joe Zierden has brought to our attention that we are getting to a point to consider a sewer improvement. Luckily for us, we have staff that are being proactive and not needing to tell us that we need to do it tomorrow. So this is a 5-year type of a study to see what we have to do to get this done. So kudos to staff for being proactive on this, not forcing our hand on this. But it's just something that we want to look at going for a study to see what it will take to improve the sewer, and is there other areas of the city that we can improve on. Now that's where it kind of falls in with roads and roads improvement. So those are things that we're going to be looking at going forward here on that sewer study.
Makes perfect sense.
And then before I go on to any of the next agenda item, I just want to make a note that tomorrow night is our night to unite here at City Hall. So from 6 to 8, everybody is welcome to come on by, and we'll be here. I'll be here.
I'm planning on coming.
Any questions?
Just a couple more comments than anything, but I'm glad to see the road committee, first of all, the speed study, absolutely, very, very important, and the policy the staff's working on, I think, is very paramount because I think we need to have that moving forward. I think that's a base that we can use. Secondly, with the road, Bushman Road, I'm glad to see that there's steps being made to move forward with that. Because at the end of the day, we have to improve that road. Whether we have other entities that are interested in helping us out, it was a wonderful idea. And I was hopeful that we could get the players to the table, but sometimes that's not always possible. So at the end of the day, the city has to look out for us and say, okay, what are we gonna do to update that road and how's that gonna be done? So I'm glad to see that we're moving forward with that. And as with anything, the longer things go out, the more they get. And I'm with roads especially, but I'm happy to see too the idea of a 5-year plan with the roads or the sewers. We know we have some roads that need to be improved that I know are currently in areas where we have city sewer. So that's important if we're gonna look at updating that road. Do we do the sewers in at the same time? Makes perfect sense. And then also, are there roads that we're going to improve in the future that we're looking at potentially there could be expansion into it? And what does that look like so that we put that in and all the pieces and parameters that go with that? So I'm glad that he's reached out to you, but that does go dovetail together. So I agree 100%. I think that's a good move. So thank you for the report. Any other comments from the council or questions?
When do you anticipate a final decision back to the council for a vote on Shoreview Lane?
I would hope that we'd have the statistics by the next month.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Right?
Yeah.
One other comment, 6% difference with and without. With makes a considerable difference, and 1 mile per hour doesn't make a hill of beans to me. So the signs work, and I'm looking forward to a very positive decision on that. Also for Shoreview Lane, or I'm sorry, Breezy Point Drive. I get calls all the time. I had a complaint yesterday. Golf cart. Sorry. I know that's your baby, but I almost hit one. He went through a red sign on Shoreview Lane. He didn't go through the sign. He didn't even see me. I honked the horn. I said, "You come here. You're supposed to stop at a stop sign." He was white. It was this close.
Yeah.
Last week.
I've had some close calls myself, so I understand. That's an ongoing thing too as well.
Just an FYI.
No, I know. So, all right. Thank you for the report. We'll move on. Moving down to items 5B5 and 5B6, which is Cemetery Committee and Park Board. I'll turn both of those over to Councilmember Bakken because he's on both of those.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm going to address the Cemetery Commission. And excuse my voice, it's my throat problem. For the most part, the city administrator ran the meeting. He briefed the assembled folks on some changes. And the mayor did a superb job. On his greeting, you did. Made me look like a penny waiting for change, but that was years ago. Greeting and noting all the master gardeners. This is very important. Those people worked for many, many years to get that to where it is now. And Dorothy Johnson was recognized. That needed to be done, and all the master gardeners. We went through 200 butterflies, Deb, and we're going to have to order some more because some of the folks didn't get the butterflies they bought. Now, that's a lot of, always goes to the little kids. That's most important. And I got a picture on my iPhone that'll warm your heart. That's got to be on next year's advertisement. I have nothing else to say about that. It was very successful and very succinct, half hour and everybody's home. Last but not least, the Parks and Rec, of which I am the liaison, folks. Some of this stuff I've said before, and I'm not going to belabor this. It's been 7 years into working approximately. I was in his exception, and I, to this day, defend and support what has been done. Shane is the gentleman, and perhaps for the folks here, you may want to call, and the administrator has his number. He's the statistic guy and what is setting up the next year and taking reservations. And this year, it's not finished yet. You aren't going to see what next year is going to produce. So next year at this time, I think we will see, I know we're going to see a dramatic increase. As far as the local establishments go, I'm going to leave that alone. We have one here. And others, I'll just leave that one alone. I'm sorry that Mr. Zierden is not here tonight, but other duties call, obviously, like his family. At the meeting, Joe announced the expansion is 75 to 80% done. He expects it to be seated this month in August or September, so which will green it up. Other notes, the administrator has set up a workshop for the location committee and the long-term funding committee. I think that was a wise idea, and that's going to be guided. And we all know how much money it is, and it's still a work in progress, and I can't say anything more about it. That's as far as the community center goes.
Thank you. Thank you for that
That's all I
clarification,
have.
because I was going to ask the question.
No. I got off on a tangent there. But I
Thank you.
appreciate your comments, I do.
Thank you for your reports. I do have a couple of comments I'd like to make. First of all, I want to thank the staff and all the volunteers who helped make that event such a success. It was great turnout, was wonderful to see. And yeah, it's a good thing to run out of butterflies, but we want to have more for next year. So
First time.
yeah,
First
and that's
time.
great. There's a lot of people there, a lot of people that are first-time people that had come to the event, some that were been there many years in a row. But it was a wonderful day, and it was wonderful to see everybody turn out. And again, I think it was a good event overall. It was wonderful to see. So, and thank you for the report on the Parks Committee. I know you guys have a lot of work going on there, a lot of stuff in progress, but it looks like it's moving ahead. So
It is.
That's good stuff. So are there any other questions for Councilmember Bakken?
Comment, one.
I have one comment, and I don't know why I didn't say it last year, but we put to rest my wife's grandma in the cemetery.
Yes, sir.
And I will just give kudos to staff all around. My mother-in-law, I tried to stay out of it to just let her handle it, and staff was great on working with it. I didn't have to get involved with any aspect. A beautiful cemetery. The staff did just phenomenal work out there. So
Thank you.
I haven't had to use the cemetery until that, and so it was
Nobody doesn't want to use it until they have to, and then they go, what do I do now?
beautiful.
But the mayor, and I was remiss, forgive me for that. The staff is totally supportive of that. Moving stuff, setting up. I mean, Joe and his crew did a wonderful job. And you're right. She's got it down. It's very smooth, believe me.
Excellent.
Proud of it.
All right. Thank you for those reports. Moving on. Item 6 in the agenda, administrator and staff reports. I have 6A, consideration of discontinuing City Hall rentals. Administrator Chansky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, still background, obviously, as I think the council knows, this back room area is available for rent. People can use it for different events, meetings, etc. We do have a process by which people can rent it and a fee structure, which I did attach. So far this year, it's been rented 17 times. We've had a total revenue of about $870. Councilman Maroney did ask me what those rentals looked like. I did actually get a chance this afternoon to look into that. Of the 17, roughly 6 or 7 are associations. So the Pelican Lakes Association, White Birch, and a few other associations. And then the rest are generally private groups. They've had everything from birthday parties to grad parties to baby showers. And most of the time, those things do occur outside of office hours and a lot of times on the weekend. We have had some issues, however. Because City Hall doesn't have electronic access control, we do have to give out a physical key, which means someone has to come here during office hours, get the key. The staff has to give kind of all the instructions. And we do have instructions on how putting back the room when someone's done and such. However, we've had some issues in the past where people have, obviously we have lots, thousands of dollars of technical equipment in here. People have messed with it, where I think you've seen in either previous council meetings or committee meetings, maybe something that one of the TVs or something isn't working because someone messed with it while they were here, having to move stuff or lock stuff away. We had an issue just last month where a renter left the windows open, left the light on, and a storm blew through. So Deb actually got called in on a Sunday afternoon when one of our officers noticed it was open, and she ran in and closed it. But unfortunately, obviously, already had some bugs and some water issues that had to get dealt with. And then we've also had issues with people not locking doors or leaving, not putting the room back together, and the staff has to take time to look at that. So comparing the amount of work it takes to rent it out versus the revenue we get, I wanted to bring this before the council to look at either, essentially have 2 options that we looked at. One is either just discontinuing the rental of City Hall outside of business hours. Obviously, when staff is here, it's really not a problem for setting things up, making sure things get turned off, things get locked. However, again, the issues become when we are not here. Or the other option would be looking at increasing the outside of business hours rental rate. I think we're proposing $50 an hour with a minimum of 2 hours of rental time. That would cover any costs the city would incur because the part of that recommendation is that the building outside of office hours has to be opened and then checked out by a staff member. So that would cover those costs. So by doing that, what that would one, we'd have security issues would go away because we're not no longer having to give actual keys out to this building. And then all the other issues we incur of people tampering with things, leaving windows open, lights on, things like that would be mitigated because whoever's responsible for the room wouldn't leave until the staff member checked everything out, was good to go. So we're just looking for some feedback on the council on what you want to do for this room. Of the 2 options, while one may be the easiest, I think 2 is probably the best option personally, in that it still allows the public to access this room while also protecting this city asset.
Thank you, Administrator Chansky. Questions from the council? Comments?
When would we be looking at implementing this if we did approve this?
I think our goal would to implement this. I think after Labor Day, we don't really have anything rented after Labor Day. Otherwise, we could do January 1st. We didn't have I looked back at the last year of rentals. It's not actually, surprisingly, it's actually not as popular in the winter. I think we didn't really, to my knowledge, when I looked at it, we didn't have any in January. We might have had maybe one in January. We don't have anyone booked for October or November, December yet. So I think after Labor Day right now is our latest.
Now, does
Rental.
this affect the church that meets in here?
The church no longer meets in here.
Oh, they don't meet in here anymore?
We do
Oh,
not.
Okay.
That's been discontinued for a
Uh-huh.
while. And,
Okay.
and another answer to that too is, as the council, we can set what that date is if we want to, if
Right,
we
yeah.
decide, so.
My input is option 1 takes care of the problem. During business hours. That's it. Takes care of everything. And for $800 income,
Okay. Councilmember Maroney.
My opinion would actually vary from Mr. Bakken's. Again, with that, my wife's grandma's funeral, we actually utilized the space as a meeting spot for the funeral, had a luncheon here. It was very beneficial to be somewhere local, somewhere real close to the funeral. So I actually saw the benefit of raising the increase to $50 an hour, 2-hour minimum. But I also thought that if we're having issues with how it's being left behind, I see that the deposit is $50 for the meeting room, is to put a little bit more emphasis on that and up that to 100. I don't know what that deposit looks like, but something that would cover our cleaning fees or staff
That
time.
would make me feel
coming
more
in.
comfortable.
It would, yeah.
Put some penalty in it.
Put some teeth into it. You know, I still, and this is why I asked Mr. Chansky is, you know, local youth club sports, I would appreciate not charging those for those kinds of clubs that come in, but for all others, even clubs and organizations that have not rented from us before, that don't have that status quo with us of knowing how to put it back, is to up that deposit fee. So, again, I know we're talking about the community center, and there's been a talk about a revamp of City Hall, but perhaps when a revamp of City Hall comes, there'd be a separate meeting room versus council chambers. That way there's no separations here. So, in the future, but just something to,
Way down the road, yeah.
Ultimately, I don't disagree with that, but yeah, right. For now, to fix what we have now, you know, do you have any comments? Oh, yes, go ahead,
Can I just
Mr.
respond to
Jansky.
Councilmember Maroney really quick? Two things on what you said. One, on the deposit, while yes, we do have that deposit, I think staff has been hesitant to keep deposit in the past, because it's kind of what is the threshold for you don't get your deposit back? You know, if the chairs aren't exactly how we like it, does that mean you don't get your deposit back? What triggers you don't get your deposit back? The other, on the association, on the groups, actually, surprisingly, the groups that we've actually had the most issues with are the groups who have like the $10 flat fee. So.
Any other comments from the council?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of 2, which is just raising the rate to pay for staff to be here, to make sure everything's in place when they all leave. So that's my opinion.
Beef it up.
quick question if I can then, if we go option 2 for raising the rates, is that for all classification user categories?
That would be the intent, would be all classification, and really, again, that because to cover the cost of having employees come here, because it more than likely would be overtime. So, and the intent of the employee would not stay here, it'd be more, you know, they come here, open the building, show them anything that need to be shown, they go, when the event's scheduled to be over, they'll come back and make sure everything's good to go before they lock up.
And I think it's important to be consistent that way. I understand your point, Councilmember Maroney, about trying to give breaks, but then it gets into this, okay, who qualifies for that, who doesn't qualify for that?
Yep.
Where's that line drawn? So I think if we're going to move with that, I would say let's make it consistent across the board that everybody has that. I would also think potentially that we may want to look at increasing that deposit a little bit from maybe like 50, say to 100 to double it. And then
Yes.
what I would do is recommend staff to put together something that says deposit is forfeited if A, B, C, D happens. Just
Put it
like
back
you would
like you
have.
found it.
What's that?
Put it back like you found it.
Yeah, whatever those steps are, but I don't want to get involved in that. I just say that staff work to put something together that's fair and equitable for the people to know and understand up front when they rent it out, that this is what they have to do to make sure, and then the deposit is not forfeited.
Agreed.
I don't think that's any different than if you go to rent an apartment, they've got a list that says your damage deposit is returned to you if A, B, C, D is met, and if it's not, we're keeping it. So I think it's the same concept with that regard. So that's kind of my thoughts. Do you have any comments, Councilmember Lalonde?
No, that kind of makes sense. You just make them have part of the part of the responsibility for getting it done.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. So do I have anybody that wants to entertain a motion?
So moved.
So I have Councilmember Bakken making a motion to allow staff to go ahead and go with option 2, which is to increase the outside business hour rental rate to $50 per hour with a minimum rental time of 2 hours. Require that the building be both open and checked out by a staff member. And I would believe that we would also then state that the deposit be changed from $50 to $100. Perfect. Second on that motion.
I'll second that.
Second from Councilmember Maroney. Any further discussion by the council?
Effective date,
Effective date.
after Labor Day?
Today,
Today.
anybody who is not already booked.
Okay.
Today.
We'll
As-
grandfather anybody who's booked, but
Okay.
That's fine.
Official at the end of this meeting then, today. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 6B, consideration for purchase of folding machine. Administrator Chansky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have an older folding machine here. It's used mainly for utility billing, public notices, butterfly release programs. It's an older machine. It's prone to jamming. It's not fun to work with. Staff recently did have an opportunity to try out a new machine through the same vendor who does our mailer, our postage machine. And Carrie was able to actually use it during the last utility billing. Again, we do a full utility billing quarterly, but there are some that she goes out monthly if they haven't paid and things like that. A full quarterly billing normally takes Carrie the majority of the day, and that's not just getting the bills ready. That's the actual part of printing all the bills, folding them, stuffing the envelopes, and then getting ready to actually mail. Using this machine, she did it in under 2 hours. Because this machine not only folds the bills, it also stuffs the envelopes and seals the envelopes. So then all she has to do is run them through the mailer and take them to the post office, and she's done. The cost of the machine is $4,418 if we were to purchase it outright, plus $420 a year in maintenance after the second year. So they included 2 years of free maintenance with the machine. That includes the shipping, installation, and training on how to use it. There's also a lease option for the machine at 5 years, $93.66 per month. As this machine is primarily used for utility billing, there's the opportunity to use sewer dollars to buy this machine. Or we also could use some of our ARPA dollars. Again, the council allocated $12,000 for office equipment. Currently, we have spent some of that. There's about $7,000 remaining. However, as this would be a sewer fund eligible expense, we are recommending to actually use the sewer fund dollars and save ARPA dollars from some other expense that might come up that doesn't have that option. And because we're planning on using it as a sewer fund, we recommend just buying it outright versus having a lease, because we generally don't want to tie a lease to the sewer fund. So at this point, the reason we looked at this, I did ask the vendor, what happens if we did this, say, in January of 2023, because it's not a budget expense this year. They said that the issue, we could do that. However, they did let us know that this price is actually a state bid price, and that state bid price expires, I think, the end of October, and then it's going to be rebid, and likely the way things are going is going to be probably have at least a 10% or more increase in cost. So that's why we're looking to, if the council is willing, allow us to purchase this machine now. We think the savings from the sewer billing and then all the other things we do, the public notices, just saving in time is worth it.
Thank you. Questions from the council to Administrator Chansky? Any comments?
I do. Did you say the state bid?
Yes.
Okay.
So we get it at a lower cost because
Did
of the
you-
state bid.
Did you talk to local people? Brainerd?
So this machine, this is through our local vendor, but they can buy it through the state bid is significantly cheaper than if you were to buy it.
I would assume so. I just wanted that
So
clarified.
we're still purchasing it from our local vendor, and they're just getting it through, they're buying it from someone kind of
I'm
So it's
all
still
for
being
it.
spent.
I'm all for it. I
The
just
money
had
is
a
still being
question.
spent
Yeah.
locally, but
That's
it's a
good.
pre-bid
That answers my
expense.
question. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any discussion about it further?
The only comment I would have is I kind of ran some statistics to see, and after year 3, this thing is saving us money, so
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a,
even with the yearly expense. So.
yes. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's gonna save us money and time. Yeah. A lot, so. All right, hearing no further questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Councilmember Ball, to go ahead and approve, the, purchasing of a folding machine using the sewer funds. Do I have a
I'll second that.
Second from Councilmember Maroney. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item 7, administrator updates. Administrator Chansky. what do
Thank you,
have for
Mr.
us?
Mayor. So just, actually do have a number of things tonight. First, a couple election items. Just a reminder that starting tomorrow, August 2nd through 5 p.m. on August 16th is the filing period for local offices to be on the ballot for the November 8th general election. Again, as a reminder, there are 4 city offices on the ballot in November. Obviously, the mayor position, the 4-year term, council terms currently held by Councilmember Bakken and Councilmember Maroney, as well as the 2-year term that Councilmember Lillehei currently holds. Again, that's a special election for the remaining 2 years of that term. Those wishing to run for council can file here at City Hall in person with either myself or Deb. We have affidavits, if you need one, we have affidavits of candidacy you can get here. Otherwise, they are available on the city's website. They have links there, or to the Minnesota Secretary of State's site as well. Also on elections, the primary election is a week from tomorrow on August 9th. Again, there are no local offices on that election, but there are a number of state and federal offices on that. So that'll be, again, next Tuesday, August 9th. And as a reminder, for those living in Breezy Point, City Hall is where you will vote. A couple quick updates on the disc golf course. As Councilmember Bakken alluded to, we do have progress going on there. I even got another update from Assistant Public Works Supervisor Neil Carlson today, where they're at. They've been actively working on popping stumps. They actually were able to get quite a bit done using the dozer, but now they're at the point where some of the bigger stumps, they are going to have to bring in a bigger piece of equipment, which they have the rental agreement right now. They're hoping to be able to get that either next week or the week after. And at the same time that they're doing that, they're going to be having a chipper come out. There's a big pile of slash from when those trees were cut down, get those chipped up at the same time. And then once all that is done, they'll be looking at actually grading out the parking lot. And then they'll start the process of seeding, hopefully in September. I do know that Joe will likely be looking for volunteers, so anyone who wants to help with that, let Joe know. They will be going out, and part of that to help the grass come in is they have to they lay a bunch of straw. So if you've got some time in your hands, they'll be looking for people to help lay straw to expedite that process. I did want to make one quick clarification on the sewer. When we were talking about expansion, there were 2 items that we were talking about in that study, looking at potential expansions of the sewer system, but also the main item being expansion of the sewer plant. I just want to make sure to clarify that there are 2 parts of that. And again, that being that our plant is getting to a point of capacity that we would have to do it anyway, and we just want to be ahead of that. I do want to give a shout out to the police department. I don't know if you saw it in the paper or on our Facebook page. The police department was awarded a $70,000 grant through Sourcewell in a correlation with, I think it was Pequot Lakes and Nisswa, for a virtual reality de-escalation software. So that has been ordered. Sergeant Garcia will be going to training either this week and sometime this month. Going through about, I think it's a day or 2 of training to be able to operate that. So that's going to be big resource for our police department, other police departments in the area, and I've already been talking to Chief Sandell about opportunities hopefully down the road for maybe even some public education opportunities to use that equipment as well for that. We'll actually, I was talking to Sergeant Garcia, and we'll actually, with this Axon system we have, we'll be the second police department in the state of Minnesota to have that system, the other police department being the city of Rochester. Speaking on some of the stuff from the Planning Commission, short-term rentals, again, we talked about that last month, had that ordinance adopted. I am still working on getting some of the other language, or I say language, the license application, looking at fees to bring that back to council. I actually participated in a webinar through ICMA just last week on short-term rentals and what other cities are doing. So again, just help inform on what I'll be recommending to the council. And then, just so you know, we have not forgotten. We are working on the Citizen of the Year committee. Had a little trouble in July getting people together, so we're still working on that. Have not forgotten about that, and hopefully going to get those people together in the next week or so, and we can start meeting on that.
I'm waiting for your call.
And I think that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further questions for the administrator? All right, hearing none. Before I call the motion to adjourn, I do have one announcement I want to make. I wanted to publicly announce at this time that I will not be seeking re-election for the mayor's position in this upcoming election. And I just want to make that out there so that everybody's aware of it. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Roney, second from Councilmember Ball. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.